Reproduction in plants. A very warm welcome to all of you in your bio class. Students, today we are going to take up chapter Reproduction in Plants. Reproduction is the process of producing new individuals of same kind. It is essential for the continuation of life on earth. It also helps to maintain the continuity of species on the earth. Let's see need of reproduction. Reproduction helps in continuation of life, preservation of species, replacement of dead individuals, evolution of most favorable variations over a period of time. We can have two modes of reproduction in plants: asexual mode of reproduction and sexual mode of reproduction. In this video, basically we are going to discuss about the various methods of asexual reproduction in plants. The method of reproduction in which a plant reproduces one or more of its own kind without involvement of seeds is called asexual reproduction. So, production of new plant without any seed will be done in this method. We can have different types of asexual reproduction. These are fission, budding, spore formation, fragmentation, and vegetative propagation. Splitting of the parent cell into two or more cells of same type is called fission. Binary fission is the splitting of the parent cell into two daughter cells of same type. It is the most common method of reproduction in unicellular organisms such as bacteria and amoeba. As you can see in this diagram, different steps taking place during binary fission in amoeba are shown. In this process, first of all, the nucleus of amoeba divides into two, and then it is followed by division of cytoplasm. Further stretching leads to the formation of two daughter amoebae, each of which grows into a mature amoeba and undergoes similar binary fission. Multiple fission, as the name itself suggests us, is the splitting of the parent cell into more than two cells of same type. It generally occurs in Plasmodium. Next method of reproduction by asexual means is budding. Yeast and hydra reproduce by budding. During this process, a bud first of all appears outside the cell wall. The nucleus of the parent cell divides into two. One of them moves into the bud. The bud ultimately separates from the parent cell to form a new daughter cell, which grows into an independent individual. Sometimes budding occurs so rapidly in yeast that the daughter cell starts budding even before being separated from the parent cell, resulting in the formation of yeast cells chain. You can see here in this slide, we have two diagrams. One is showing budding in yeast. Another one is showing budding in hydra. Next asexual method of reproduction in plant is fragmentation. Algae usually reproduce by the asexual method of fragmentation, in which the body of an alga breaks up into two or more pieces or fragments. Each of these fragments subsequently grows to form a new individual. An example of common algae is Spirogyra, which reproduces by this method. You can see here Spirogyra is filamentous in shape. When a mature Spirogyra reproduce, its body simply breaks into two or more fragments on its own, and each fragment then grows into a new Spirogyra, as it is shown in this diagram. Next method is by spore formation. In this method, the parent plant reproduces hundreds of tiny spores in spore cases. When the spore cases burst, then spores spread into air. Being light in weight, they keep floating in air and then carried over large distances by air. Each pore is covered by hard protective coat. When spores land on food or some other surface with a favorable condition, then germinate and produce new plants. Most of the fungi and flowerless plants like mosses and ferns reproduce by this method. In this diagram, we can see spore formation in braid mould. The common braid mould, rhizopus, consists of fine thread-like projections called hyphae, and thin stems have knob-like structures, as you can see here. These knob-like structures are called as sporangia. Each sporangium contains a lot of spores which finally gets dispersed in air and give rise to new rhizopus when get suitable conditions. Another very important means of reproduction in plant is the vegetative propagation. Production of new plants from the vegetative parts such as the stems, roots and leaves of the existing plant is called vegetative propagation. It can be of two types: natural vegetative propagation and artificial vegetative propagation. Natural vegetative propagation can be done in following ways: by roots. Roots of some plants like sweet potato, dahlia, asparagus are swollen as they store food in them. When such roots are buried in the soil, new plants are obtained. Modified underground stems. Underground stems like ginger, potato, onion, turmeric, etc. are also the source of vegetative propagation. The eyes, which are actually the buds present in potato and bulb of onion and rhizome of ginger, give rise to aerial shoot under favorable conditions. By aerial stems. This method of propagation is found in grass, mint, strawberry, etc. In this method, a side stem originates from the base of the stem, which grows along the surface of the soil and produces roots where it touches the ground. By leaves. Leaves of certain plants such as Bryophyllum contain adventitious buds in the notches located on the margins. These buds develop into new plantlets. When the mature leaf falls on the ground, then the plantlets and the buds grow into a new plants. This is the reason why Bryophyllum is also called as the nursery of plants, because from a single leaf itself we can have numerous Bryophyllum plants. Artificial vegetative propagation. Some artificial methods of vegetative propagation are stem cutting, grafting, layering and tissue culture. Let's see these methods one by one. Stem cutting. Rose, sugarcane, lemon, bougainvillea, etc. are grown through stem cuttings. The stem to be grown is cut obliquely into long pieces and planted into the moist soil. The cuttings develop roots and shoots and grow into new plants. As you can see here in this diagram, stem cutting in rows is shown here. Next one is layering. In this method, the lower branch of the plant is bent to the ground and covered with a moist soil. Children, it should be moist, but due to mistake it is written most. So please read it as moist. Moist means wet. After some time, roots sprout out from the branch and produce new plantlets, which are then separated from the parent plant and made to grow as new plants. Jasmine, strawberry, grapevine, etc. can be propagated by this method. As you can see here, propagation by layering is shown. Grafting. In this method, the stem cutting of desired plant, which is called as scion, is inserted into a cut in the stem or the branch of a rooted plant, which is called as stalk of the same species. The stalk and scion are then tied together with the help of a thread and are covered with wax to avoid any kind of infection. Many varieties of mango and roses have been developed by this technique. Next one is the tissue culture. In this method, a small piece of tissue, generally the shoot apex, is cut off and then placed in an artificial nutrient medium containing hormones. The piece of tissue grows into a mass of tissue called as callus. The callus is then transferred to another nutrient medium containing plant hormones, where it multiplies and differentiates into small plantlets. These plantlets are then transferred to the moist soil for growth. So with few cells only we can have a lot of plants, new plants. Advantages of vegetative propagation. It is cheaper, rapid and convenient method for growing plants. Plants which do not produce viable seeds such as bananas, grapes, oranges, pineapples, etc. can be grown very easily by this method. Desirable characters of fruits and flowers can be maintained indefinitely. Plants grow are of uniform size and quality and bear fruits with the same taste. Let's see a few limitations of vegetative propagation. It does not produce new varieties. Undesirable characters, if are present, then these characters would also be transmitted from one generation to other. Diseases, if any contracted by the parent plant, are transmitted to the daughter plants. So these were few limitations of vegetative propagation. In the next video, we will discuss in detail about the sexual method of reproduction in plants. So till then, goodbye.